Henry Talcott butchered livestock, some cows and lambs, usually pigs, from farm to farm. The work, mostly now the looking for work, took him all over the county. He'd rattle off in his old truck before the sun was up and wouldn't get back until 9 or 10 at night. Gladys Bebo came by the tent most days to see how things were going. If Henry hadn't returned by supper time, she'd drag the boy and his sister back to eat with her and her father. Margaret didn't like old Bebo with all his grunting, belching, and gassing, but every now and again she needed to be near Gladys. That's when Thomas missed his old life most, sitting at the table with pea soup simmering on the stove, while the plain, gaunt woman whistled through the gap in her teeth and pressed bowls of buttery mashed potatoes and stewed tomatoes on them. His mother might have been a terrible cook, but she was the most beautiful lady he'd ever seen, with the softest hands and a voice so sweet. When she talked, it came like singing. Everyone agreed Irene Jalley was the prettiest girl in town. Her attraction to taciturn Henry Talcott had caught a lot of people off guard, especially Gladys Bebo. Gladys and Henry had been childhood friends. Then when Henry was 15, his mother died, and his father just kept on walking out of the cemetery, never to be seen again. Old Bebo took Henry in, not from any kindness of heart, he liked to say, but to keep the damn dogs from barking every night the boy snuck into his barn to sleep. Grateful as Henry was, he hadn't been raised to be anybody's burden. The war came, and soon as he could, he joined the army. Henry and Gladys got engaged after he returned from France. Nothing but gray skin and lanky bones, his lungs seared by mustard gas. He tried to get right back to slaughtering work, but couldn't walk more than a few feet before he'd be so winded he'd have to sit down. Most days were spent on Bebo's porch in worn army pants, whittling as he stared out at the dirt mountain road. It was old Bebo who took the wheezing ex-soldier aside and pressed Gladys's mother's yellowing pearl engagement ring into his hand. After months of Gladys's care, Henry was strong enough to start back to work. It took a couple years, but soon Henry had his own truck and tools and a house he was building on land he bought from old Bebo with a bank loan. Those were 20 choice acres because they cut between Farley's dairy pastures and the main road up to Burlington. Someday that land would be worth a hell of a lot of money, old Bebo predicted. As soon as the house was finished, Henry and Gladys were going to have a church wedding and a honeymoon to Niagara Falls. Then, one spring day, Henry Talcott butchered Irene Jalley's father's 3 lambs. In spite of his gory mission, Irene must have known instantly that this plain, rugged man would never fail her the way her own father had constantly failed her bitter mother with all his whoring and gambling, driving her to an early grave. Irene had had just one more course to go for the business college correspondence certificate that would deliver her from under her father's thumb. But her father refused to give her the $7 he owed her. Then, when she announced she was moving out, he piled her books and clothes in the front yard and burned them for everyone to see. Aunt Lena said the reason her baby sister Irene set her sail for Henry Talcott was that she wasn't used to being so completely ignored, especially by a man. He climbed down from his truck and walked right by me on into the barn without a word, or even a tip of his hat, like I wasn't even there. She would tell her children later, always with a note of surprise, of wonder almost, as if she too were still trying to figure out how it had all come to pass. He was a good man, respectful and hard-working, she would continue, as if testifying to them and herself what everyone already knew. If he had any faults, they were just the result of who he was, a man's man, who often ended a job with a drink after a long day, made longer still by his appreciation of the farmhand's bawdy tales and corny jokes. It was the life he knew best, having worked from the time he was 12. Irene